Now, I've got some tough questions for you. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. What have you been asking me so far? You've been asking me, do I still have sex with my partner? You've been asking me true false questions about, do I still care about my partner? Having me finish sentences that are really hard to finish. And now you say you're going to ask me 5 tough questions? Well, yeah, I am. These are essay questions. These are not yes or no questions. But here's the deal. You've got to be really candid with yourself here. And again, I'm going to tell you later on, I'm not going to say, okay, now trade journals with your partner. No way am I going to say that. In fact, when we get through with this, you may want to shred these. You may want to take these out in the field somewhere or go get a garbage can somewhere and burn these, because this is where you can be completely candid with yourself. And I say that because, as I've said, you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. So we've got to get really, really real. And if you were listening to my Living by Design series, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. One of the things I said was consistent among champions is they deal with the truth. The same thing is true here with relationships. There are just 2 things worse than being in a bad relationship. One thing worse than being in a bad relationship is being in a bad relationship and lying to yourself about it, being in denial about it. And the other thing worse than being in a bad relationship is knowing about it and doing nothing about it. You're not in denial. You know it. You've admitted it, and you don't do a damn thing about it. I've said before, the only thing worse than being in a bad relationship for a year is being in a bad relationship for a year and 1 day. And you don't want to do any of these negative options, so that means we've got to be honest. And here's the first of the tough 5 questions. Now, look, love has probably been decoupaged on everything you can get decoupage on. Every T-shirt that you can buy. Love is a box of puppies. Love is watching the sunset together. But let me give you a definition that we can use for love for the purposes of our conversation. And at least one definition of love, and you won't see this on a T-shirt because it's too long, is that the security and well-being of your partner is as significant to you as your own security and well-being. Now, what does that mean? It means that you care more about your partner than you do about yourself. Loving someone means you would push them out of the way of a bus and take the hit for yourself. You'd take a bullet for them. You would die for them. You care more about their safety and security, nurturance, happiness than you do about yourself. Okay, if that's one definition, then here's a question. Would you say, based on results, you behave in a way that reflects that you are in love with your partner? Using that definition, that you put their interest ahead of your own, their safety and security is important to you, would you say that based on results, not your intentions, not your thoughts, but the way you have behaved, would you say your behavior reflects the fact that you are in love with your partner? And why do you say yes or no? So I want you to write this down. Why would you say yes or no? What have you done that demonstrates that you love your partner based on our definition? Or what have you failed to do that indicates that you're not in love with your partner? Question number 2, using the same definition, would you say your partner is in love with you? And why? What do you pin that answer on? What have they done that makes you believe that they are in fact in love with you because they put your needs ahead of their own? Or what have they failed to do? How have they been selfish? How have they pushed you aside and put themselves at the top of the priority list? So I'm asking you to give specific examples. This is based on results, which means it's based on behavior, not intention. Well, I meant to. No. I want to know what you did. Question number 3, knowing what you now do about your relationship, would you still get involved with this person if you had to do it all over again? Now, think about what I just said. If you knew then what you know now, maybe you're 5 years in, maybe you're 10 years in, maybe you're a year in, but if you knew then what you know now, would you have taken the leap? And this is exactly why I say you don't ever want to let your partner read this, because hopefully this is going to change. Your answer may be, hell no, hell no. If I knew then what I know now, not a chance. But that doesn't mean we can't fix this. We can't change that. But let me tell you, if your partner reads that, they'll never get over it. So this is between you and me. If you knew then what you know now, would you still get involved with the same person if you had it to do all over again? If you would do it again, why? And if you wouldn't do it again, why? Be specific. You can't just say yes or no. If the answer is no, why do you say that? Because he has proven to be this or that or the other. Because he does this. He treats me this way or that way. Number 4, when comparing yourself to other people in relationships, do you feel that you've been cheated or that you settled too cheap? Now, understand you're comparing your reality to their social mask. They don't call you and ask you to come over and sit in the bedroom when they're having a knockdown dragout. You just see them at a party or at dinner or whatever when they got their smile on their face. And they say, "Can I get you something, honey? Would you like to sit down, honey?" And, maybe 30 minutes later, it's like, I hope you die. But I'm just saying, based on what you see, do you think you've been cheated or that you settled too cheap? And again, I ask that realizing you're comparing apples and oranges, but I'm interested in your attitude, whether you feel like you've been cheated or settled too cheap, and if so, why? What is it you think you see in other people, in other relationships, that you didn't get? And again, you have to write this down. And then the last question, number 5. If you could break off your relationship right now, if you could get a divorce from your partner right now, without any inconvenience, no legal costs, no embarrassment, no undue hardship on your children. If you could just wave a magic wand and undo it all, would you do it? Now, this is different than what I asked you before. What I asked you before in number 3 was, if you knew then what you know now, would you have done it then? I'm asking you now today, if there was an exit ramp that was pain-free, would you turn on your signal and take that exit ramp? And if so, why? And if the answer is no, I would not turn on my signal, get over in the right lane, and take that exit ramp. If the answer is no, why? What is it you get from this relationship that would make you stay? It's very important that you answer with specifics both ways, whether you would stay or whether you would go. If you would go, spell out why. If you would stay, what are you getting out of it? You need to acknowledge that. You need to write that down so you understand it. Now, why am I going through all of this? I'm going through all of this because I want you to be able to answer that question, because people can't articulate the state of their marriage, the state of their relationship. They can talk about the pain, they can talk about what one has done or said, but they can't really give you a state of the union being the union between the two of them. They can't really do that, and I want you to be able to do that, because if you can't do that, you don't know where you are. It's like you're lost in the dark and you don't know where you are. Okay, I've asked you to do a lot of soul searching. I've asked you a lot of questions and asked you to evaluate where you are. Now, why is that? Because you can't figure out what you need to do, where you need to go, what levers you need to pull, which steps you need to take if you don't know where you are. Like I've said so many times, if I answered the phone and somebody said, "Hi, I just dialed a random number. Can you tell me how to get to 3rd and Elm?" What's my first question going to be, besides, why are you calling me? My first question is going to be, where are you? Because if they're talking about 3rd and Elm in my town, wherever my town is, I need to know where they're starting. Because the directions are going to be a lot different if they're in El Paso, Texas, than if they're in Bangor, Maine. I mean, it's going to be a lot different, because the first turn's going to be right if they're in El Paso. It might be left if they're in Bangor, Maine. So I have to know where you are before I can tell you how to get where you're going. You have to know where you are before you can figure out how to get where you're going. You need to know, are you in love or are you not in love? Are you in constant conflict? Are you living in character assassination? Where are you? Are you in a relationship that you would never get in if you had it to do all over again? Are you in a relationship that you would bail on if you could just afford it? Are you in a situation where you feel that you live with judgment and contempt every minute of every hour of every day? Or are you in a relationship where you feel like, we need a little brushing up here? It's a big difference knowing where you are in figuring out what you need to do to get where you want to go. So I've been asking you a lot of questions to have you identify where you are mentally, emotionally, physically, attitudinally, because I want us to know where we're beginning so we'll know where we're going.